Before we get into the video, make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. I mean, come on, what are you doing if you're not subbed to me by now? My content is fire, from stop motions, news videos, reviews, music occasionally. All my social media accounts are linked down below, and now, let's get straight to it. Okay, so we've got a bit of a different video here. I don't really do too many of these videos. A lot of it is either my stop motion reviews, or, you know, my news videos. So I want to do more of these videos on the channel where I'm just, you know, discussing Transformers and the brand and the toys and stuff like that. I've done videos before in the past, but not as many as I plan to do or want to do going forward in the future for this channel. So stay tuned for more videos like this. So as you can tell by the title of this video, I want to talk about Robots in Disguise era 2001 figures and characters that really need new updated figures in Legacy, or figures that, you know, I would like to see an update, but the original figure still sort of holds up in the generation's standards that we have for today. I'm not going to be talking about too many repaints. There's one or a couple in here that I'll touch on and talk about, but I'm not going to be talking about, you know, all the repaints from like Beast Machines or Transmetals, Beast Wars, stuff like that, because or G2 Machine Wars and all that, because this line was filled with a lot of those repaints because I think because it was selling so well that they wanted to sort of fill up the line in the later waves and add waves to it. So I think that's why they wanted to do that. Or maybe it was because the show had sort of a short cast, you know. Back then they really wanted, coming off of Beast Machines, they really wanted a larger sort of cast, if you will, to bring in, obviously, more toy sales, more waves, and stuff like that. So I think those are some of the reasons why a lot of those repaints made it into the toy line. But anyway, the first one on the list here, I got Ruination, the Decepticon Combiner. I think this was the only bad guy combiner we had in RID 2001. All the other ones were Autobots, so that was pretty interesting in itself. But obviously, we would have to get a G1 Combaticons group first, and how they would do that, I'm taking inspiration from how they did Menasor last year in 2022. Probably deluxe class figures, with the main one being, I don't know, for Onslaught, I'd say leader class. I don't think he really needs to be a commander, but I could see them, you know, nudging him into commander like what they did with Motormaster to include extra accessories for the combining mode and stuff like that. So who knows what, when or what it's going to be like when we get the Combaticons, and once we have them, the inevitable Ruination repaint, because I'm pretty sure this is the most popular repaint that we have for Bruticus here. I almost forgot the main dude's name, Bruticus. There are other repaints later on down the line for RID 2001 in terms of exclusives for Ruination. There's the gray and black repaint. I think there was one or two for the Universe 2004 toy line. So there are quite a few repaints they could do after Ruination. So I think it would be wise for Hasbro, because I know they love to, you know, nuke the molds, do 3, 4, 5 different uses out of them, or even more, 11, 12, like what they've done with the Siege Sideswipe mold and the Siege Seeker mold and stuff in recent years. So I think there's a lot of repaint potential, and I really do think Combaticons and Ruination repaint definitely will be happening in the next couple years. So, and how they can improve on this is just adding more articulation. Not, you know, I mean, this is just a G1 Bruticus mold repaint. You know, that's how, you know, cheap some of these RID 2001 figures were done, just to fill up the cast of this show and fill up the waves. Just making it something that's not a mold from 40-something years ago with added articulation would be great. That's my main point with this old Ruination, is just adding a lot more articulation, better transformations that are a bit more in-depth, that give you better robot modes, you know, stuff like that. That's not a G1 toy problem that from 40 years ago. The next one here, I almost said Skidsy. Toeline. We know he is getting a legacy figure at some point this year in the Buzzworthy line. That's the rumor right now. But we don't know when he's coming out. But obviously that figure is not the Toeline we all know and love from the RAD 2001 cartoon. And I'm sure it's not the one that most of us wanted as an update. I do think this is a good figure, and I do think it could be used as a cool little Cybertronian Toeline type thing for your photography or stop motions. So it's got a cool idea to it, but I would have preferred a more faithful Toeline figure redone first before getting this, I guess you could say, Cybertronian version. And how they could improve on this is better proportions, because this is based off of the, I think this is Machine Wars hoist mold. So better proportions a little bit, and added articulation. Give him a waist swivel, give him wrist swivel, give him ankle pivot, thigh swivel, because I don't think this old mold doesn't have thigh swivel. Old mold. See how I rhymed there? Eh? I don't think this mold has thigh swivel, so just improving on the proportions and articulation would make for a much better Toeline figure, and we're this close with that new Legacy one. We just need a more accurate body mold for Toeline, and we would be crystal golden. Crystal golden? I don't think I've ever heard that before. But anyway, the next one, Skidsy, however you want to pronounce his name. Again, this is based off of one of those Machine Wars Scout Class, Deluxe Class, or G2 type molds here for, I think this was repainted into a lot of different characters. The Toeline and Skidsy also have a lot of major repaint potential if they did new molds of these for the modern day generation's Legacy line. So I definitely see these being tapped into at some point soon. Skidsy probably sooner than Toeline, considering we're just now getting a repaint / remold of Toeline, so I don't think a new, more accurate version of him would be coming for a few years from now, I'm guessing. But Skids here. Again, more articulation, no hollow arms right here that really plagued a lot of mid-late 90s, early 2000s, smaller Scout Class type figures. A lot of them had these hollow arms, like not even on the inside like what they do with newer figures. It was right up front where you could see it on every single pose, angle, shot, stop motion you do with this thing. So improving on that type of hollowness, adding articulation and ball jointed head, wrist swivel, thigh swivel, ankle pivot, waist swivel. So improving in that aspect, articulation, and maybe even the proportions too would be great. Next up here, we have the Three Stooges of the Predacon RAD 2001 team, Slapper, Darkscream, Gas Skunk. And I really love these characters. They really remind me of the Three Stooges, how clumsy and just stupid they are. They're so funny to me. But I have these figures in my collection. I have them, can I even point to it? I have them in the bottom DTOF shelf there. I really love these figures. I think they still hold up very well in the modern day generations era. And I wouldn't mind if, I doubt this would happen, but I wouldn't mind if they just reissued these original figures, because I still think they would fit really well. But there are a couple things that I wish they would improve on for if they were to do a new mold in Legacy. Making them a little bit taller. These guys are a bit shorter than your average Deluxe Class these days. And in the show, they're only, slightly shorter than Skybite. But in toy form, they only go up to, I'm trying to think back here, because I also have Skybite. They only go up to about his waist area, I'd say, or maybe not even his waist. So making them taller, making them proper Deluxe Class height, and adding some articulation would be nice. Wrist swivel, ankle pivot. All three of these do have ankle tilts, but it's that ball joint tilt that they still even do on some new figures today. But I just prefer where it's just a hinge with a pin inside of it. I don't really like the ball joint ankle pivot. So improving on the articulation a little bit. and increasing their height would be really nice to me. But other than that, oh, Slapper, he needs a better articulated head, because just the way they designed it with the ball joint facing forward instead of on top of the head, that I never really liked that. And improving on his third arm here, the blue thing, that would be nice, adding some extra joints to make it a bit more usable and movable and more intimidating as a weapon. But that's the first one up here on this list where they still hold up as great molds in your modern day generations collection, but they still could use a few modern engineering improvements to make them great figures. And the next one here is the exact same way here, Skybite. I still think he holds up pretty well in your modern day generations collection if you want to get the original. But a few things, again. Articulation and the transformation, I think, could be streamlined a bit more. Similar to what they did with the Shadow Striker mold that is recently coming out soon in the Wave 4. Is it Wave 3 or Wave 4 of Legacy Evolution this year, Shadow Striker? They sort of simplified and streamlined the original transformation of Sideburn and made it a bit more enjoyable, and I think they should do that here with Skybite. And he's also got gorilla arms on his left arm here. I think if they added some wrist swivel or just did away with the ball joint, that would be nice. Adding in a ball jointed head because his head is just on a swivel would be good. Adding thigh swivel, ankle pivot. Just those few things to really improve upon the articulation would be great. And of course, simplifying the transformation. But other than that, I still think he really holds up as a solid figure in your modern generations shelf. Next up here, we have the Carr Brothers. Of course, we now know that we, at some point, are going to be getting a new Sideburn based off of that Shadow Striker mold. We don't know if it's going to be a remold or just a repaint with a new head similar to the toe line that's coming out. I would assume it's just going to be a repaint with a new head, and you could use that as a Cybertronian mode for Sideburn, which I really love that idea because I still think these Carr Brother molds still hold up really well in your modern day generations shelf. But again, there are some things here. Articulation, I think. Prowl and Sideburn, they have the ball jointed ankle pivot, which again, I don't like that much. So modern ankle tilt, and adding an ankle tilt to X-Brawn here. Better thigh swivels on all of them because they just have that ball-jointed knee swivel, which I'm not too big on. Adding a waist swivel on Prowl and X-Brawn because I'm pretty sure Sideburn has a waist swivel. All of these have ball-jointed heads, which is really nice. Again, simplifying the transformations on these, similar to what they're doing with the inevitable Sideburn figure. I think they could improve on a few things with X-Brawn and Prowl just to make the transformations a bit more enjoyable. I don't hate transforming them as much as a lot of other people do that I see complaining about these transformations, but there are a few things where I think they could improve on the transformation. And of course, repaint potential. They have their super modes. I forget the exact name of these repaints. They get it. It's some type of super mode or like power links type thing. I'm forgetting the exact name in RID 2001. Let me know down in the comments below if y'all know. But it's got a ton of repaint potentials with the Universe toy line, and there were some BotCon repaints and Comic-Con exclusives and stuff, so that would be cool. There's also repaint potential for Skybite because he was originally a Transmetal figure, and his name was, I think it was Cyber Shark, so getting a repaint of that would be pretty cool. And I can't remember if there are any repaints of the Three Stooges here. Yeah, obviously. They're based off of the Transmetal's Scout Class molds. I don't remember the original names for all three of them, but I do know that Gas Skunk's mold in the Beast Wars toy line was originally a Maximal, so they switched sides a little bit there, which was pretty cool. Next up here, we have the Spy Changers. I don't remember all of their names, but I definitely know that the one with the cow spots on it, the pickup truck, is Ironhide, which always seemed funny to me. It is fitting, but I don't know, it just always seemed funny. But these are based off of the original G2. Were they also called Spy Changers? I can't remember. But again, there's a ton of repaint potential with these being based off of original G2 molds, and I think some of these made it into the Machine Wars toy line, and some of these were also repainted in the Universe 2004 toy line. Why do I keep messing up the word toy line? I keep saying tote line almost. But ton of repaint potential. I think they could upscale them a bit because, again, these were more of like Legends class-sized figures, and adding more complicated transformations to give a more satisfying robot mode would be nice, and adding in a lot more articulation because these little Spy Changer things were pretty much bricks, a lot like the Armada figures that we got a year later after RAD 2001. So improving on the transformation, making it a bit more complex for better robot modes, adding a ton more articulation, and making them bigger, actual deluxe class sized figures, and probably making Ironhide a Voyager class here since he's a pickup truck. So those definitely need an update, along with Ruination, the most out of the ones that I've talked about so far. Next, we're diving into one that got an update not even a year ago, Scourge. I'm pretty sure a lot of you can guess what I'm about to say about this figure right now. The color scheme. Come on, we need a Scourge re-released with show-accurate colors. Me personally, I think they could just re-release the original Scourge mold, and I would be fine with that, because I prefer the original mold over this redo from Laser Prime last year. I have the original mold right up there on a shelf, actually, so I love that figure. I haven't gotten this Velocitron one, and I don't plan on it. I kind of want to get the Laser Prime. I really like the flames and truck mode. I'm a Bayverse kid, so just re-release the Scourge in regular colors. Regular show-accurate colors, and we would be good to go for those of you that prefer this mold. And another one here, I said I wouldn't be covering many Beast Wars repaints, but this is the one that I hinted at that I want to talk about because I absolutely freaking love Cryotech, and we just got Transmetal 2 Megatron not even a year ago, so it's about time, it's the right time to do a Cryotech repaint, and we absolutely need him. He's this gangster, crime lord on the streets of Cybertron type character from what I remember, and the repaint and the colors is just so cool and dope to just look at, and the purples mixed with the blue and the teal and the black. It would just be an awesome leader class repaint. Now, there was a rumor that we would be getting a Cryotech repaint next year in 2024 via, I think, Praxis was talking about that on the TFW board, so I'm not sure how concrete that is. But I would absolutely love that. Hell, give it to me this year. Why do I have to wait another year? But that's just the run of the mill with Hasbro. They want to spread figures out so you could keep people interested for years to come. It is what it is. But yeah, a Cryotech repaint. I want the most out of the Beast Wars or Beast Machines repaints that we got during this toy line. Oh my god, I did it again. One of the more infamous molds of this toy line, or famous, however you view this figure. Me personally, I love this figure. I still have it. I still think this holds up pretty well in your modern day Generations shelf, but I see a lot of people complaining about the transformation for all 6 modes I think he has, 5 or 6. So maybe engineering those transformations a bit better, or just taking some of them out completely, because I remember a few of them being a bit too stretched out on it's like teetering on, is this an actual transformation, or am I just putting this figure in a yoga pose, that sort of thing. So maybe even taking out some of those modes that he had, streamlining the transformation, making him taller, making him at least Studio Series 86 Dinobots height, or maybe even doing a Commander class to accommodate for all the transformations that he has, and just making him bigger in general. Because the original mold, I was just messing around with it last night. He's shorter than Transmetal 2 Megatron that just came out in Legacy last year. He's shorter than the Optimus Prime that he goes along with in this toy line and show, which is insane. Because in the show, he's actually bigger than Optimus when Optimus is in his combined super mode. So already that's out of scale. But you could look at it as a sort of thing where you're making your own headcanon, and you could look at it as, well, I don't want to do the same tropey type of thing where the main villain is significantly taller than the main hero, being Optimus, so making the villain a tad bit shorter than the main hero makes for some different and interesting storytelling. I guess you could go that angle, but even then, that's like, I still want a Dragon Megatron to be bigger than Optimus Prime. That's just the way things usually are in the Transformers universe, so who knows? But yeah, just making him taller, adding some more articulation perhaps, with feet that don't get loose over time, because for the toe articulation and heel articulation, yes, a figure from 2001 does have toe articulation, which is freaking awesome, which is one of the reasons why I still think this figure holds up. The look of him, articulation, and most of his alternate modes still look great for modern day generation stuff, but it's a few things that I've listed and that I'm about to list here soon. The feet, I think they could do away with the ball joints and add the modern day pin, ankle pivot, and maybe doing the toe articulation in a different way where it doesn't get loose and the figure doesn't fall over, or maybe even just doing away with the toe articulation, maybe adding in a hand joint, a waist swivel definitely, and a ball jointed head for sure, because the head is just on a swivel and he has no waist swivel whatsoever due to transformation. So improving on the articulation a little bit and just making this guy bigger and maybe even streamlining the transformation. Those few things I think would make for a perfect RID 2001 Megatron, but again, I still think this figure holds up pretty well in your modern day collection. Galvatron, the repaint right here, white, purple, red, black. It's a great color scheme. I would love it. Again, same mold. I still think it holds up. So I'm not clamoring for this update as much as some other figures that I've listed or I'm about to list in this line here. But again, this would still be a pretty awesome repaint to see done in the modern era. I think that might be... Oh no, there's some BotCon repaints that were done and remolds. I remember there was like a Beast Wars Megatron that they did in 2016. I think there was a Deathsaurus one that they did in like 2005 or 2006 for a comic book. So there are quite a bit of repaints you could do or remolds. So bring it all on. Get this guy done in Legacy and I would love it. All the repaints. Give them up. Rail Racer. Again, this is another one that I think holds up in your modern day Generations collection. But there are some things, I think, streamlining the transformations a bit more so it doesn't make for a bit awkward core robot modes. They're pretty accurate to what we see in the cartoon, but I think the transformations could be done a bit better to give slightly more accurate robot modes and robot modes that look a bit better than what we got with the original figure. Again, I don't think these are bad. I still think it holds up, but making the transformation a bit more modern would help these guys out a lot, and adding articulation, ankle pivot, thigh swivel, because I think one or two of them is missing thigh swivel and possibly even an elbow swivel. I don't have this figure yet. I do plan on getting it at some point this year, hopefully. So I'm not clamoring for an update of this guy as soon as possible because I still think the original holds up. But again, this could use some, modern engineering on this guy. And another combiner, Landfill, Build King, depending on what version of the cartoon you want to go by here. I think this is a figure that you could still buy and you could put it with your modern era generation stuff. But I think making the robot modes a bit more appealing to the eye, different sort of transformations, a little bit kind of like what they did with Shadow Striker, removing some of that extra kibble or managing it a bit better, or the combined modes, adding some articulation, because I think the lower legs are a bit weird to move around. Again, this is a combiner that I don't have yet. I do plan on getting this at some point soon, maybe this year, I don't know. But I don't see too much that could be improved on this, just some extra articulation and streamlining the engineering a bit. As you can see, this is a running theme with a lot of the RID 2001 figures. especially the ones that I still think hold up. And a lot of people still think a lot of these RID 2001 figures still hold up for your modern generation's shelf. It's just a few things. And the next one here, Ultra Magnus. This figure, I'm not too accepting of. I have it because in certain stuff, it still holds up with a lot of Generations figures. But once you get down to the waist all the way down to the legs, it's just a train wreck. He needs better leg engineering. I know this is his design from the show, so it's accurate, so I can't really hate on that. But he has no heels, he has no ankle tilt. His legs are pretty loose over time because of how they did the ratchet joints. And making the knees a bit lower, I think, would help too, because his knees are really high. They're like all the way up to his forearms almost. So engineering the legs way better, adding a waist swivel would be awesome. But the upper body on this guy is really articulated still. He's got hand articulation, ball-jointed wrists, ball-jointed head, ball-jointed everything basically until you get to the waist down. So improving the legs mainly on this guy is my issue. But other than that, I still think he's a great figure. I really like the truck mode. But I really want an update of this guy because the legs really ruin him for me. This is one of the figures, along with Ruination, Toe Line, Skids, that I think really needs an update before a lot of these RED 2001 figures. And the last one here, I'm pretty sure you could guess what the last one is that I haven't talked about yet. The leader himself, Optimus Prime. This is a legendary figure. Very classic in your, I guess you could say, pre-Chug era figures, you know. It started in late G2, early Beast Wars, when we started getting figures with more articulation, more complex transformations that were sort of the predecessors for Universe 2008 and the generations that we know of from 2010 all the way to today. And this figure from that pre-Chug era is one of the more famous ones, I'd say, in a lot of people's grails. I have this figure. I have one in Super Mode, and then I just have an extra one of the core robot mode, because when you combine and transform him so many times over the years, the chrome paint scrapes a lot on the chest. That's one of the things that I wish they would redo when they redo this figure. No chrome paint on the chest, which is pretty much a given, because they don't do chrome paint a lot anymore. I think the last time they did that was, the leader class figures for Age of Extinction. So no chrome paint on the chest, maybe even limiting the paint on the chest altogether due to how he has to transform in combined mode. Adding ankle pivot for the combined mode would be nice. But other than that, I think there's not really a whole lot you can improve on. Maybe slightly more appealing proportions in the core robot mode for easier sort of posing, because sometimes the arm bumps into the wheel that's on his lower legs at times with certain poses. Simplifying the ratchet joints a little bit, because sometimes it's those detents where you move it from here and you move it one time, it goes all the way to here, like in the thighs and arm area. I think that could be improved with the ratchet joints. But again, not a whole lot on this figure could be improved for a modern era of a Chug RAD 2001 Optimus. I think this figure holds up probably maybe the best out of this whole toy line for RAD 2001. Not talking about, again, the Beast Wars repaints or the Beast Machines repaints and stuff. But yeah, that is pretty much all the stuff that I wanted to cover in terms of figures that a lot of people would love to see redone in Legacy, or figures that I personally would like to see redone in Legacy. Again, a lot of these from the main cast that we have on the list here, I think they still hold up for modern times, but as you saw, there's still some improvements they can make on a lot of these figures, and some of them, like Magnus, Ruination, Spy Changers, Skids, and Toe Line, really, really, really need new updates as soon as possible. But let me know down in the comments below, what updates for this toy line do you guys want to see first? Let me know down below, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!